Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. The reason that we're here is that today is the first day that Chicago Public Schools will be administering the new PARCC test. And it is the newest in a long list of standardized tests that our children in CPS undergo every year. And as you all are surely aware, there's been a great deal of frustration, not just around the implementation of the PARCC in particular, which of course has come with myriad problems regarding technological preparation for this test. Many schools in CPS are taking this test on paper and pencil, despite it being designed to be administered by computer. And there have also been reports of numerous glitches in the computer system, but also deep concerns about the academic preparation for this test, whether our students are in fact prepared academically to take this particular test. But it's not only frustration about the PARCC in particular. There's a growing and widespread frustration with the broader regime of standardized tests that parents, so many parents have spoken to me and many of my colleagues, some of whom are here today, telling us how they feel that their students are being deprived of quality instructional time, of important academic opportunities in the classroom for the sake of preparing for tests and sitting for tests. PARCC is often described by its proponents as a test for which students don't need additional test prep time, right? It's supposed to be linked in with the curriculum that students are already receiving in the classroom. But we've heard from students who have had to sit out of class for 6 hours just to be prepared for the logging in and computerized administration of the test. Not only the preparation time for the curriculum, but also the preparation time for the actual physical taking of the test. And that's 6 hours of instructional time that students have lost. So parents are frustrated with this exam, and right now, under the current rules, all parents can do is tell their students to go to school and refuse the test. The State Board of Education has said that if a student refuses to take this test, then their score won't be counted negatively against their school or their district. But of course, that presents all kinds of complications when students, some of whom are as young as 8 years old, have to go into school and refuse these tests, and they can't have their parents do it on their behalf. That's why I sponsored House Bill 306. We have a couple of the co-sponsors of that bill here today who will speak in just a minute. It will give parents the right to write a letter on their student's behalf, opting their student out of state standardized tests. We support this bill because we believe that students deserve a quality, well-rounded public education that includes sciences and reading and writing and math, and also arts and humanities and physical education and all the things that make public education valuable and meaningful, and not just sitting in front of computers taking tests. And we also support this bill because we believe that parents deserve the right to refuse to participate in a part of their child's education that they believe is unjust, is inappropriate, is harmful to their child's development long term. So it's an important piece of legislation. It recently moved out of committee by a vote of 3-2, and it will be heading toward the House floor soon enough. To that end, I would like to call on a couple of my colleagues from the House who are standing with me sponsoring this legislation. Representative Ann Williams and Representative Jamie Andrade, both Democrats from Chicago. Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, why don't we all come on up? We have some parents who are going to speak with us this morning as well. Great. All right, State Representative Jamie Andrade.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for coming today. As you know, in my community and in my local schools, I've been approached by various parents and various parents, and actually my family members, as one of the things I'm most concerned by the time our child or children have reached the second grade, they would have already taken over 40 standardized tests, which I think is unacceptable. That's why I believe in the Montessori program. That's a little separate from here, but I think our whole society, we're going towards testing our kids, that we're spending most of our time preparing and testing our children. Kids are going to school to test for ACT. They're prepping for every exam. And we're not following the most important thing, which is to actually teach our children the curriculum instead of teaching them to learn how to take a test. And one of the things that's why I support this bill, and I support because parents know what is most important for their children. I do not believe, and I stand here, correct me if I'm wrong, no one is against testing and to find out assessments, but it's the quality, it's the amount of time that our children are spending on the testing. That's one of the things that needs to be changed, and we need to concentrate to teach our children to think on their own with one of the things that I have a nephew who took, he went through the Montessori program, and he says that even in his classroom, even at Northside College Prep, he saw students who went without the program. He said you had to teach, some of the students could not learn how to get from point A to point B without being directed. And that's one of the things we're seeing now. If we just teach our kids just how to take a test, they won't be able to think out of the box. So I stand here in support of my parents and my community with Will and Representative Ann Williams here. Thank you very much.
Up next, State Representative Ann Williams.
Good morning. My name is Ann Williams, and I'm a state representative from the 11th District. And I'm joined today here by some parents from Audubon Elementary School who will be speaking to you shortly. I share the concerns of everybody here about the PARCC test, but it's important to emphasize we're not here today to weigh in on the merits of the test. We're simply here to say that unless and until the test is thoroughly vetted by the experts and parents, administrators, and principals feel confident that the test is ready for prime time, let's give parents and families the opportunity to opt out. It's that simple. I started hearing about the PARCC test maybe a year ago or so from parents, principals. Seems like every school event someone would mention the PARCC test and their concerns about it. An opt-out policy just makes sense. It makes sense for our neighborhood schools, it makes sense for our parents, and it makes sense for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Williams. Up next, we're going to hear from several parents from the City of Chicago and from suburban districts to talk about the PARCC test. First, Brenda Delgado from Chicago Public Schools.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Delgado, and I live in Bronzeville, and I'm a parent of 3 CPS students, and I'm also a board member of Illinois Raise Your Hand. We've heard from dozens of parents, not just from Illinois, but throughout Chicago and all of our neighborhoods, each one with a different message on how their students can refuse PARCC. What we need is clarity, and we need consistent policy, which is why we need HB 306, which is the Parents Opt-Out Bill. My 5th grader will not be spending 10+ hours on a test that has not been proven valid or reliable, and she won't be frustrated with ambiguous questions where there is sometimes no clear answer or multiple answers possible. And the test has also been proven by academic researchers to be written more than 2 grade levels above the reading level for the target grade. As a Bronzeville resident, I also know personally how test scores have been used in school action decisions, closing more than a half-dozen schools near my own home. PARCC is designed to show that the majority of students are failing their academic standards. Our children are not failures. This test is failing our students. It is not ready to be used this year and needs serious overhaul if it's going to meet its goals. What our students need are high quality instruction, appropriate supportive services, and a clear policy that nurture their academic success. I want to thank my own representative as well as the other representatives here, my own representative Ken Duncan, who's looking out for the best interest of their constituents, the parents' rights, and our students' academic success.
Thank you, Brenda. Up next, we have Karen Yarborough from Oak Park.
Hello, good morning. My name is Karen Yarborough. I am the parent of 3 children, 2 of whom are in Oak Park Elementary School District 97. The superintendent and the school board of District 97 are implementing a sit and stare policy across all elementary and middle schools in Oak Park for children who are not participating in the PARCC test. So today, And over the course of the next few weeks, my child will have to repeatedly, every single time a new section of the test is presented, he will have to repeatedly refuse the test to his teacher that he trusts, admires, and looks up to. And then, for the simple act of asserting his rights, the District 97 administration and the school board have decided that my child will be punished. My child and other children who are not participating in the park will be prohibited from reading or writing or engaging in any other educational activity over the many hours of testing that will take place. Something has gone terribly, terribly wrong when our children are not allowed to read in their classrooms in our public education system. The Illinois State Board of Education and the board administration in District 97 in Oak Park have really lost their way. So I am so grateful for these legislators and my own representative, Camille Lilly, who have stepped up to sponsor House Bill 306 to make sure that children are treated humanely and respectfully for asserting their rights. And I appreciate their support of this bill, and I encourage all of our legislators to support this bill so that our children are not the ones who end up being punished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. And that's an important point, I think, and one that I overlooked in my opening remarks. But House Bill 306 also provides that if students are opted out of these tests, they're to be offered educational enrichment time and not just the sit and stare, which is the kind of policy that we've seen in many districts across the state for students who opt out. So thank you for sharing that story with us. Up next, we have Christina Nolan, also from Chicago Public Schools.
Hello, my name is Christina Nolan. I'm a Chicago Public Schools graduate, lawyer, college adjunct, and mother of 7. 4 of my children attend Chicago Virtual Charter School, also known as CVCS. My oldest is a sophomore at Chicago High School for the Arts. I have decided that my kids will not take the PARCC test at CVCS due to the many concerns I have about the test. CVCS is a unique public school where students meet at the school for 3 hours and 15 minutes once a week and work with learning coaches, usually a parent, for the rest of the time. While I am concerned about the loss of instructional time due to PARCC, my kids specifically, if they were to take the exam, would lose 20 hours of instructional time over 3 days. And this is once for the first half of PARCC and then another time when PARCC is administered again. I am actually more concerned, though, that the school has said families who opt their child out of the test will lose their internet reimbursement. The only qualification for receipt of the internet reimbursement is that the family be eligible for free or reduced lunch. In essence, if you get free or reduced lunch, this school pays for your internet. The internet is required for students to do their daily schoolwork. My family does not receive the payment, and my decision to opt out could be made without considering that reimbursement amount. When I opted out, I received this form letter here, and if anyone wants to take a look at it or have a copy, they can have it. They're welcome to it. I received the form letter, and I know of at least 2 other families who received the exact same letter, so I'm guessing it's a form letter sent out by the administration. One of the families who got this letter absolutely relies on the reimbursement payment to pay their monthly internet bill. The mother learning coach submitted a request to opt out, and she has 4 children. She wanted to opt all 4 children out of the test. She was told by administration at CVCS that if she opts out, she will not receive the second of the 2 yearly reimbursement payments for the internet service. This family needs the payment, and the mother had no choice but to rescind her opt-out request. Her children will be taking the PARCC test. She doesn't want them to take the PARCC test. And as she has children in the same grades as mine, her children will also lose 20 hours to the test in addition to her travel time. She lives on the northwest side near me. We have to travel all the way downtown for the test, and it's 3 days in a row, so it's those 20 hours. The family will lose a second 20 hours of time plus travel time when the second PARCC installment is administered in April. You wouldn't take lunch away from a low-income student for opting out of the PARCC test, and you shouldn't take their internet reimbursement payment away either. Please support House Bill 306. Every parent should have the absolute right to decide whether their child should take PARCC. Parents should never be bullied into accepting something they don't feel is right for their child. And I thank all the legislators here today that have already introduced and accepted the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. That's another really important point. I mean, geez, it's just every school and every principal is just winging it, really, and there's no clear guidance on this at all, which is why this bill is so crucially important. Our next speaker is going to be Jeanette King from Villa Park. Jeanette.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jeanette King, and I am a teacher and a mother of 4 school-age children. I am here today to ask for your support in sponsoring House Bill 306. My oldest son is a 4th grade student in Villa Park, District 45. His class will begin PARCC testing later this week. 2 weeks ago, I wrote letters to my son's teacher, principal, and superintendent stating my intention to have him respectfully refuse the PARCC test. I have been informed that my son will be required to log in and verbally refuse to take the test. Passing House Bill 306 would put the burden of refusing the test on parents. No child should be made to feel that he is choosing between disobeying his parents' wishes and defying his school. I have also been informed that after my son refuses the test, he will be left to meditate or nap at his testing station for the duration of the assessment. I am disappointed that my son will be made to endure 13 hours of the least academically stimulating activity that the PARCC Administration Manual has outlined as acceptable post-testing options. Passing House Bill 306 would mean my district could provide alternate instructional or enrichment opportunities without penalty or threat of withholding funds if I refuse, on behalf of my child, state assessments that are developmentally inappropriate. When a parent's only option to avoid having their child lose instructional time is to withdraw him or her from public education for 5 weeks during the standardized test windows, it is time for a change. This is a call to action for our state legislators. Please join me in making our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then finally, we'll hear from Angela Call from Prairie Grove. Oh, is she?
She's late. She's
Oh,
in
okay.
traffic.
Well,
That's it.
so that'll be the rundown for now. Let me just, for everybody out there, give you guys some names and spellings of all the folks who have spoken. So my name is State Representative Will Guzzardi, Guzzardi, the 39th District in Chicago. We heard from Representative Jamie Andrade, Jaime Andrade, from the 40th District in Chicago. And we heard from Representative Ann Williams, ANN, Williams like Williams, from the where's Ann? 11th District? 11th District, from the 11th District in the city of Chicago as well. We heard from Brenda Delgado, Brenda Delgado, from Chicago Public Schools. Karen Yarborough, Karen Yarbrough, from Oak Park. Christina Nolan, Christina, Nolan, Nolan, from Chicago Public Schools. And Jeanette King, Jeanette, Jeanette Kling from Villa Park. All right, thank you all so much for being here. If anyone has questions, we'll certainly be happy to take them. Questions for myself or for any of the parents or other reps.
Is this bill apply to all standardized tests?
To state standardized tests, exactly, which is that would be the PARCC, the state standardized test, exactly.
I mean, just PARCC or did the other tests?
Presently just PARCC, but if the state were to issue a different standardized test, it would be the state administered tests, yeah.
This is the only state-administered test?
Indeed, this is a state-issued test. What's that? Cassie, you want to answer? You want to take this? This is Cassie Cresswell from More Than a Score, who will maybe fill us in with more information.
There's a few other ones that are required. My name is Cassie Cresswell, CassieCresswell. The state also requires, for example, not all students take the PARCC depending on some cognitive disabilities, and they may be required to take a test called the DLM. Every student who has, who's basically non-native language speakers of English also take an access test. So there's a variety of tests.
What do you do, ma'am?
I am part of an organization called More Than a Score. I'm an organizer.
What about math
The MAP testing is something that individual districts require, but the state does not require it.
Representative Andrade spoke about many tests by the, I think 40 tests by
Second grade.
second grade, something like that. If this is the only state mandated test, what are the other 39 tests? What are those about?
Well, if you want, I can send you a list. You could look at what happens is that because one particular test is high stakes, and then teacher evaluation, school evaluation, student promotion, all of these are dependent on that test. So then districts feel pressured to get very high scores in that test, and then we start testing more and more in preparation. So even though the high stakes tests don't start till 3rd grade, for example, now K through 2 has tons and tons of testing, because the idea is that by 3rd grade you have to get a certain score, and it's very high pressure in 3rd grade, and we need to get kids ready for 3rd grade, so we start testing them in preschool now, and that's what happens
There's
basically.
diagnostic tests too.
Are they
The
like
diagnostic tests, so it's almost like a pre-test, like your pre-ACT.
Representative Guzzardi,
Yes, sir.
I work at BBM Radio. I got a question. What's the ostensible reason for the PARCC test, and what's wrong with that ostensible reason? Or is there anything wrong with the test itself?
Well, the ostensible reason is that that students and teachers need to be evaluated on their performance, and I don't disagree with that in theory, but I think there's a lot better ways to do it than by having high stakes testing starting in 3rd grade, and by having this particular exam. I mean, I think that we have seen that sampling is a really effective way to get a measurement of how districts and how schools are performing without testing every single child. I mean, in any other field, we rely on randomized sampling to see how we're doing overall. I mean, we don't test every single steak, right? If we're trying to do, FDA inspections, they don't test every cut of meat. They do random sampling to see how well we're performing on our safety standards. And we have existing standardized tests that already rely on this principle, so it's not brand new to education. I think it would be a perfectly valid way to evaluate how we're performing.
There are many standardized tests. Why are you concerned about this one?
Well, this is the one that the state is administering, and as state representatives, I feel like it's our responsibility to set good policy for our state tests.
Got a legislative nose count? Is your idea going to make it through?
We're working on it. We're talking to our colleagues every day, and I feel optimistic that we're going to get to 60 votes.
Do you think this is a financial scam to benefit anybody in particular? I see some nods back there. Do you think there's any?
How about if one of our nodders would like to address that question, you're more than welcome to.
I might just add, kind of, if you don't mind, Ann Williams, I might just add, what really struck me today is I represent only Chicago schools, so I've heard from a variety of principals and parents as to how their particular school is going to handle the opt-out situation and what the students will be asked to do or able to do if they don't participate in the test. But I'm completely floored by families that are dealing with completely different policies in different school districts, to sit and stare and everything else. I think what we want to do here is make it easy for parents to make their own decision depending on what their individual policy of their school is. And having a statewide approach to something like this just makes a lot of sense. I mean, we need.
There's a lot of parents out there that would say, well, then if you feel that way about your children and their education, then parents can homeschool their kid and test them however way they want. What's your response to that?
Well, I would say absolutely that's an option if parents choose that way, but we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in this case. In this case, according to the parents that I've talked to, there's a lot of inconsistency as to experts weighing in on the test and the appropriateness of the test, the students' readiness of the test. They're all questions at this point. So I personally am not weighing in on the test itself. I'm not familiar enough to do that, but I'm just saying, I've heard from enough parents, principals, administrators, just to say, let's let them opt out.
I'm Brenda Delgado again with Raise Your Hand, and we are concerned about not just the resources that are committed to the park. Illinois has dedicated more than $40 million just in this year alone for park. That's more than PSAE already combined with the NWA that we still use. But it's the matter of how much time is in the test. An 8-year-old 3rd grader spending 10 hours on a test is absolutely unreasonable. In comparison, the NWA map, my 5th grader finished the math section in 25 minutes. In 25 minutes, it accurately gauged her strengths, her weaknesses. That same afternoon, her teacher knew the breakdown of the test, and the areas that she needed to actually change her instruction so that it can address her deficiencies in math. We're not going to get the results from PARCC tests until possibly next fall, maybe next winter. We still haven't received any results, not parents, not districts, not the state, from the results of the pilot of PARCC last year. So the purpose of the test is to see how they're aligned to Common Core. Many of our best schools in Chicago and the state have already aligned their curriculum to Common Core. My second grader, for example, goes to the #1 school in the city of Chicago. Their 7th graders are testing at the 10th and 11th grade level, for example. Our concern is it narrows a curriculum. It takes away time from social studies. It takes away their specials for the day. And they're also having sent home packets of 30-page packets of review for the 7th graders, which are testing at 10th and 11th grade levels on what they learned 3 years ago, because those kids are so far advanced. What purpose is that, and how does that enrich that 7th grader's academic experience? They feel like they're doing their little brother's homework, which they did many years ago, but hours and hours into this test, which again, is not going to be used for anything this year. It's not used for grade promotion, teacher evaluation, school district rating, principal evaluation. So it's a waste of time for a test that hasn't been proven reliable, and we're seeing the test is not appropriate for the age level that it's targeting.
Thank you. Hold on one quick second, y'all. I just want to give a brief moment to speak. We'll take some more questions in 1 second, but Angela Call has just joined us, and she's come a long way. So I wanted to give her a couple of minutes to address you all. Please come on up and take the podium.
Angela, A-N-G-E-L-A, Call, K-A-H-L. Good morning. My name is Angela Call. I am the proud mother of 3 children who attend District 46 Prairie Grove School in Crystal Lake. They are in 2nd, 3rd, and 6th grade respectively. I am a math instructor at McHenry County College. I hold a bachelor degree in mathematics, a Type 09 secondary teaching certificate with endorsements in both middle school and special education. I have decided to opt my children out of state standardized testing. I am here today because Illinois law does not currently provide parents with that right. I am here today because my young children do not need the burden that comes with having to refuse a test or disobey their teachers. I am here today to support HB 306, which honors parents and their right as legal guardians to refuse standardized testing on behalf of our minor children. Both of my daughters have reported being pulled from their core classes numerous times over the past several months to practice and prepare for PARCC, a brand new and developmentally inappropriate standardized state assessment. As a parent and educator, I want my children to learn while at school. I am not interested in having them pulled away from core instruction to practice or participate in yet another standardized state test. My 6th grade daughter needs to practice her times tables and reading. My 3rd grade daughter needs a challenge, enrichment activities. My 2nd grade son has already learned from standardized test scores that he is unlikely to outperform his sister, so he simply concluded that his best effort is nothing more than a waste of time. I would simply prefer having them learn something or work on a remedial skill instead of participating in yet another standardized assessment. But I have been denied this simple and logical request. After emailing the principal and teachers with my request, I was passed along to the board attorney, who finally responded to me with the following, and I quote, "No alternate instruction will be provided to your children if they opt not to complete the PARCC assessment. If your children are present in school when PARCC is administered, your children will be expected to complete the assessment. If they choose not to, they can sit quietly until the assessment is concluded. They will not be allowed to bring a book or any other reading materials with them to the testing site." When testing began in our district last week, both of my daughters had to refuse participation in front of their peers. This test is scheduled to end on March 17th, and my daughters must refuse participation each and every day. By the time PARCC testing is over, both of my daughters will have sat quietly without a book and therefore learned absolutely nothing for more than 20 hours. And that is just time dedicated to this particular test. My children deserve better. Our children deserve better. They deserve an education. I ask that everybody support HB 306. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just a couple of more questions. Yes, ma'am.
I know you don't speak for the entire group, but is the objection towards standardized tests as a whole, or is this objection specifically towards this test?
Well, I think what you're hearing from parents here and what we're hearing from our constituents and folks around the state is a frustration with the sort of mass of standardized tests that our students are being put through every single year. And as Cassie pointed out, when we build a program of high stakes testing, that sort of creates and breeds this secondary level of preparatory testing, right? So it's all interconnected, but I think ultimately this bill is not. This bill will not end the regime of standardized testing as we know it. It's simply about, for these parents and the many other parents like them who feel that these tests are inappropriate for their children, to give them a clear and understandable policy about what they can do on their children's behalf, and to make sure that their children get some instructional time in the classroom if they choose to opt them out.
Just a follow-up to that. I know everyone comes from different districts. How many districts, I know CPS does, is taking this test plus another test? I mean, how, is everyone, CPS is taking math and, so is everybody, like, so all these districts are not just taking this test, you're also taking
Right.
standardized
Yes.
tests?
Yes.
Because of the para law.
Right. Hold on one quick second. Let me get to Becky.
I wanted to ask, how many states have an opt-out law?
So there are 6 states with opt-out laws currently on the books, and there are 5 other states that are currently considering very similar measures to this one in their legislature.
And do you know how many, in Illinois, how many parts of curriculum parents can opt out of? Like, I think of sex ed off the top of my head. Do you know other, how many are there of those kinds of things?
There's a good list of them. I don't know if anybody knows off the top of their head.
Becky, I could send you the list, but it includes things like instruction about blood transfusions, instruction about drugs, instruction about parents can opt out of mandatory vaccinations for school-age children. They can opt out of, there's like programs that take your child to visit a prison. You can opt out of that. Parents can opt out of particular graduation requirements and substitute vocational instruction. So there's a very long list of things that you can opt out of in Illinois.
Representative, do you have a timeline for how quickly this could pass? And then, like, what is out, like, why do you need support? Who's opposing this? What's the opposition look like?
That's a good question. The opposition, well, the State Board of Education currently stands opposed to this bill as written. And there are organizations who, I don't hasten to characterize them as protesting groups, but groups that tend generally to support the institution of standardized testing, who have opposed this bill thus far in the process. And I'm working with the opponents of this bill to try to get to a place where we can hopefully reach some consensus on it, although I'm not sure how likely that is. As far as working the bill through the process in the House, we are in the process of trying to line up our 60 votes, and we will call it to the floor when we feel confident that we're going to get a majority vote for passage. The deadline for bills to pass through the House is the end of April. The deadline for the end of session, knock wood, is the end of May. So I'm hopeful that this bill will be passed in time to be applicable for the end of the second round of PARCC testing, which will happen in May.
So if it does pass, let's say that it does pass, you get the support that you need. What if school districts come back and say, look, we have to hire more teachers because some parents want their kids to read, some want math time. What is the consensus that you guys are all okay paying a little more property or school taxes for this to happen?
We don't feel that there will be the need to hire additional staff in order to take care of students who are opting out. We believe that the existing teachers in the building should be able to provide enrichment materials for their students to engage with during the course of that testing. And at the very least, to let them open a book and read. I don't think, certainly wouldn't require hiring additional teachers to allow your student to sit there and read instead of staring at the wall.
The mom from Chicago Virtual Charter School, could you just talk a little bit more about how much money we're talking about with this reimbursement?
It's about, I'm not sure on the exact amount because it does change, but I think it's somewhere between $150 to $180 for that second installment. They get it twice a year, which, as someone who would depend on free lunch, reduced lunch, they would depend on that to pay their internet bill.
Has the school said anything to parents about why it is that they're tying the two together?
It's actually, there is something specific in our Learning Coach Handbook, and you can take a look at this. Basically, it says that, I should have had that page marked. It basically says that parents agreed to participate in all testing. And they did specifically, in the 2014-2015 manual, they did specifically list PARCC. In the email that we got, it says, please be aware that by not participating in PARCC testing, you will be losing a qualification criterion for the second internet service reimbursement at the end of the school year. To be eligible for internet service reimbursement, you must participate in all school testing.
Is there anything else that you, as parents at the school, can opt your children out of?
You know, since ours, I mean, not really. I wouldn't say so. And one of the things I did want to say is CVCS is actually a combination. It's a public school. It's a combination of homeschooling and classroom learning. So it's a little bit of a different arrangement. I commuted for 2 hours a day to a magnet school for 8 years, so I decided to consider homeschooling, and I didn't want to do specific homeschooling, just to go. I actually chose CVCS because they did do a standardized test. I chose it for that reason, which at that time was the ISAT. My children did participate in that. So.
Is it true that if CPS students, their grade depends on what school they'll be placed in?
No.
The
No.
score on the test?
No, that's a
Not
different
on-
test. There's
That's the NWEA, I believe.
There's right the
This test
placement
means nothing.
Means
this year.
nothing, yeah.
There is no measurement
It's-
for anything from this PARCC test. There is no benchmark for this test as
That's
of
right.
right now.
That's right. Yeah, well, right, this is meant to be the benchmark year, but there just hasn't been clear guidance on that issue.
They're just throwing it out there to see how it goes.
I suppose you could say so. Yeah, last question from Becky, and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
Bill would apply onward and
Yes, yes. This is not just about this year. And in fact, should it pass after the testing window this year, we feel it still matters because it will be applicable in years to come. I will be available for questions afterward here, as well, I'm sure some other folks up here. Thank you all so much for coming out today. Very much appreciate it.
2 finals for me for BBM. What's your guess on